Let's take the conversation about electric bikes and climate change to another one of our local experts, Liz. Liz, can you speak a little bit about how Denver decided that e-bikes could be a valuable strategy to combat climate change? And in particular, if you could talk a little bit about what steps you took to get the program launched in Denver and any advice you have for cities looking to launch similar programs.
Of course, thanks. Yeah, as Pete mentioned, back in 2020, we launched the Climate Action Task Force. It was amazing to be part of that process and see all the ideas coming from our community. One of which was to actually create the Climate Protection Fund, which the voters then passed later that year. And we were able to start implementing in 2021 using the Climate Protection Fund dollars for programs like this e-bike rebate. We know that, it can significantly be a game changer in the transportation space because of the fact that people can go farther. They can replace vehicle trips on an e-bike. It's fun. It meets a lot of different needs, as we've heard. So we knew right away that that was something that we wanted to implement as one of our early action items in terms of, getting those dollars out into the community. The other thing about the Climate Protection Fund that the people of Denver passed is that it has an equity mandate. And so we know from the beginning, of all of our program design, we're really looking at how do we make this a program that's accessible to everyone, regardless of income. And so we were really kind of trying to figure out how do we do a program design that is as inclusive and accessible as possible. So one of our early steps in the program design was really thinking about an upfront rebate. It really lowers the barrier to in terms of cost. And we have a standard rebate, $400 plus an additional $500 if you pursue purchasing an e-cargo bike. And then our income qualified rebate is $1,200 plus an additional $500 for an e-cargo bike. So the fact that we wanted to do this upfront program design meant, in terms of the rebate, meant that we needed to work really closely with the bike shops. And so one of the other benefits of our program is really fostering a local workforce and a local economy around e-bikes and e-bike repair and service. We wanted to make sure that people had a place where they could go to shop for the bikes, test out the bikes, try on different models and see what works for them, see how they work in person if they're not familiar with them, but also a place where they can go and get access to service if their bike needs a tune-up, repair, if there's any kind of warranty issue, they can go back to that shop. And those things can get handled here locally, which is another great benefit. Plus, those dollars are flowing locally in our own community. So I think that is a really important part of our program design and has been, something that we've really been proud of in terms of how we've launched the program. I would also say that we're learning more and more about how to make our program even more accessible. So thinking about what types of bike models are actually able to be purchased in our bike shops. Seeing if there's different types of models that are actually more accessible for people with physical disabilities, looking at different ways that we can make that program design even better into the future. So I think some of our lessons learned include thinking about how we do our sign up. Having an upfront voucher means that it's an incredibly popular program. We budgeted a much smaller amount, I think $250,000 to start, and we kept increasing the budget over the year. I believe now we've given out $3.3 million of vouchers in up to this point this year. And so it's been wildly successful, but then thinking about how we budget and then how we also release those vouchers over time to make sure that it's accessible for people. So we're looking at some redesign for 2023, starting in January, that will make it a little bit easier. I know folks have gone onto our website and sometimes the vouchers are actually gone within minutes. And so that can be a challenge for folks who are trying to log on, get their voucher, claim their spot. And so we're looking at different ways that we can do that in the future. But I think the fact that it's been so successful means that there really is a big demand out there. And I know for anybody who's listening, who's from a local government, you're probably wondering, well, how are you staffing this? How are you doing this work? I know in the past, in many local governments, there might be one sustainability person whose job is kind of across the whole range of sustainability topics. And so I think it all really starts with a community conversation about what resources are needed and what the priorities are. So going back to that climate action task force, the fact that we had a real open conversation with the community about what are the resources that are necessary to actually do this work is kind of the essential first step, I think, because we wouldn't be able to launch a program like this without the amazing team that we have. Mike Salisbury, Sam Domeyer, Natasha Way, like we couldn't run a program like this unless we had that amazing staff and without the resources of the Climate Protection Fund that the voters gave us. So for local governments that are listening, we're always happy to answer questions here in Denver, but I would say, listen to the community first, listen to what their needs are, do that exploration with your community to understand what their priorities are, and then figure out a way that you can equitably fund that work. And then we will definitely be sharing more information sort of as we get towards the end of this year about the real details of the program design and how we can kind of iterate for next year to make the program even better.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Liz. And, I was a voucher recipient, luckily, because I was very fast on the mouse of the Denver rebate program. And it's been really exciting to see the success of that program so far. So thanks for sharing that.